Hello everyone, I hope that you all are fit and fine, and let me tell you that I am completely fine as well. In the previous video, we had started discussing the chapter of basic concepts under the Income Tax Act, and we started with section number 4 of the Income Tax Act 1961, which speaks about levy. Income tax is levied on, that is, the income tax is applicable on what? It is applicable on the total income of the previous year of every person. From the word total income, to understand it better, we have to know about the income concept. To understand the word previous year better, we have to know about the year concept, and to understand the word person, we have to know about the person concept. In the previous video, we had discussed about the income concept, where I had told you the meaning of income, and also I told you the difference between capital receipt and revenue receipt, and I told you that after completing the syllabus you have to go through the definition of income given in your study material. Okay, now let's come to the next concept, that is the year concept. First and foremost, before jumping into the concept, you have to know about three terms. What are those three terms? The first term is financial year or FY. Okay, then previous year or PY, and then assessment year or AY. Financial year, previous year, and assessment year. First and foremost, let us learn what is financial year. Financial year is a period of 12 months. It is a period of 12 months which starts from the 1st of April till 31st of March. Financial year is a period of 12 months which starts from 1st of April till 31st of March. Hence, this period of 12 months, okay, it is called financial year. However, it is not necessary that this financial year is same for each and every country. Different countries have different financial years. Some other country might have financial year which starts from the 1st of February and ends in 31st of March. For some countries, the financial year may start from 1st of January itself till 31st of December, just like the calendar year. Okay, but in India, the financial year starts from 1st of April till 31st of March. Hence, for us chartered accountants, the new year is not 1st of January. For us, the new year is 1st of April. Okay, so this is the concept of financial year. Now let us come to assessment year. Firstly, let us learn assessment year. Assessment year is also a period of 12 months. Assessment year also starts from 1/4 to 31st of March. 1st of April till next year 31st of March. Okay. Basically, assessment year is also a financial year. Basically, assessment year is also a financial year. Then what is special about this assessment year? Assessment year is a financial year in which the income is assessed, or income is taxed. In simple language, you can call it the year in which the income is assessed or the income is taxed is called the assessment year. So assessment year is a financial year starting from 1st of April till 31st of March. It is the year in which the income is taxed. Okay. Now let's come to previous year. Previous year does not have the meaning like how you are thinking about it. In the common meaning, previous year means the year in the past. Okay, but however in income tax it is not so. Previous year is the year in which the income is earned. Okay, and generally even previous year starts from the 1st of April till 31st of March. It is the year in which the income is earned. Then why is it called previous year? Okay, it is called as previous year because, see, income is generally taxed in the next year. Income earned is generally taxed in the next year. Okay, and that next year is called what? Assessment year, because assessment year is only the year in which the income is taxed. Correct? So the Income Tax Act says that the year in which the income is taxed, we will call it assessment year. Hence, since the year in which you earn the income, it is the previous year to the assessment year. Hence, it will be called as previous year. Hence, it will be called as previous year. So previous year does not mean the year in the past. It is only the main year, that is the year in which the income is earned. Okay, hence from now onwards do not get confused, because in every single question you will be given the wordings previous year and assessment year. If you get confused, you will make mistakes in the examination. Okay, so previous year is the year in which income is earned. However, not every single time the previous year starts from 1st of April till 31st of March. Sometimes the previous year may start from some other date also, that we are going to learn now. Okay. Firstly, in the notes, let us see what is assessment year. Assessment year is defined under section 2 clause 9 of the Income Tax Act 1961. Okay. I already told you, remember, that section 2 is a definition section. In that section 2 there are so many definitions, and the definition number 9 is the definition of the assessment year. Okay, and it is, assessment year is what? It is a period of 12 months from 1/4 to 31 3. It is the immediately following the previous year. So it is the year in which, okay, it is the year next to the previous year. Okay, and it is the year in which the income is taxed. You get my point? Now let's come to previous year. Previous year definition is not there in section 2, it is given in section 3. Previous year is given in section 3. Section 3 of the Income Tax Act talks about previous year, and it says that previous year is the financial year immediately preceding the assessment year. Immediately preceding the assessment year. Now, generally, previous year also starts from 1st of April till 31st of March. However, if there is a new business or profession, okay, then the previous year for such business or profession will be the date of setting up of the business till the 31st of March. Okay, for example, I have started a business of selling saris. I have started a business of selling saris on 1st of July 2021. Then the previous year for the business of saris is from the 1st of July 2021 till 31st of March 2022. Okay, so sari business started on 1/7/21. Then what is the previous year for this sari business? From 1/7/2021 to 31st of March 2022. You get my point. Next, if there is any new source of income, then the previous year for such source of income will be the date on which the source of income comes into existence till 31st of March. So for example, I newly put my house on rent. Okay, I newly put on my house on rent from 1/9/20, or we'll keep it as 15/9, because every time if I'm using the date as 1 you might get confused. 15/9/2021. In such case, what is the previous year for the new source of income that has come into existence? What is the new source? Rental income is the new source which has come into existence. The previous year for this rental income will be 15/9/2021 to 31st of March 2022. Okay, you get my point? So that is the concept of previous year. Generally, previous year is from 1st of April till 31st of March. However, if a new business or a new source come into existence, then the previous year will be the date of beginning of the business or the date on which the source comes into existence till 31st of March. You get my point? And finally, it is the year in which the income is earned. It is the year in which the income is earned. Fine, I hope you are clear with assessment year and previous year. Now let us come to the next concept, that is the previous year for undisclosed sources of income. Previous year for undisclosed sources of income. Sometimes what will happen is that the assessee or the taxpayer, I told you assessee means what? Generally assessee means taxpayer. Sometimes the taxpayer will not disclose his income to the assessing officer, he will hide his income. In such case, when the income tax officer finds out that the assessee is having such income, then for such income, what is going to be the previous year? That is the question. Fine. Now let us discuss this concept in detail. What are the different types of undisclosed sources of income and what will be the previous year in such cases? Now, The following are called undisclosed sources of income if no explanation is offered by the assessee, or the explanation offered is not satisfactory in the opinion of the assessing officer. Kanna. Now what is this assessing officer? Assessing officer is the officer of the CBDT, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes. We can fondly call him as income tax officer also. Okay, assessing officer is the person who is responsible for assessing the assessee. Assessing officer is the person who is responsible for assessing the assessee. Means he is the person for checking whether the assessee has computed his income and paid the taxes properly or not. Okay, so that is the assessing officer. You are going to see this term many a times, so be clear with the meaning. Assessing officer. Okay, now one by one we will see all the different types of undisclosed sources of income. First and foremost, section number 68 of the Income Tax Act 1961 talks about cash credits. Talks about cash credits. Cash credit means what? Sum credited in the books of accounts. Now, for example, let us take the example of Mr. Fraud. Mr. Fraud. Name itself is Mr. Fraud, so you can totally imagine what type of things that he does. Okay, so there is a person called Mr. Fraud. Now this Mr. Fraud has a sum credited in his bank account of rupees 10 lakhs. Credit in bank rupees 10 lakhs. Okay, assessing officer found out that there is a sum of rupees 10 lakhs which is credited in his bank account. Assessing officer is coming and asking, how did this 10 lakhs come, or what is the source of this 10 lakh rupees that has come into your bank account? Now Mr. Fraud actually offers no explanation to the assessing officer, or the explanation that Mr. Fraud is offering is not satisfactory to the assessing officer. Let me repeat it once again. Mr. Fraud, okay, in his bank account a sum of rupees 10 lakh is credited. Assessing officer finds out. An assessing officer is asking, from where did this 10 lakh come from? Okay, Mr. Fraud, either he is not able to explain where it is coming from, or he is giving some bullshit explanation where assessing officer is not at all satisfied that the explanation that he is giving is valid. Okay, hence what will assessing officer do? Assessing officer will treat this 10 lakh rupees as cash credit. Cash credit. Cash credit is the first type of undisclosed sources of income. Okay, and when will this cash credit be considered as income? This cash credit will be considered as income in the financial year of credit. That is the year in which it has come into the books of accounts will be considered as the previous year for such cash credit. You get my point? I hope you are able to understand. As and when we go by, you will be able to understand even better. Okay, next, section 69 of the Income Tax Act 1961 talks about unexplained investments. Unexplained investments, what is the meaning? Investments not recorded in the books of accounts. Okay, let's again take the example of this Mr. Fraud itself. Okay, first what he did, 10 lakh was credited in his bank account and he was not even able to explain where did this 10 lakh come from. Hence assessing officer treated this 10 lakh as undisclosed sources of income. Okay, and it is considered as income in the previous year in which the income is credited. Okay, now what happened? Mr. Fraud had purchased some shares. Had purchased some shares, but he did not show these shares at all in the books of accounts. Mr. Fraud had purchased the shares and did not show them in the books of accounts. Now what will happen? Assessing officer is checking the books of accounts of Mr. Fraud, and he found out that he is also having shares but he has not recorded them in books of accounts. Now assessing officer is coming and asking that from where did the money come from to buy these shares? Where did the money come from to buy these shares? Mr. Fraud had done some fraudulent activity. Okay, from that only the money had come from, but he cannot tell it directly, no. Hence, Mr. Fraud either does not offer an explanation or the explanation offered by Mr. Fraud, it is not satisfactory to the assessing officer. In such case, this investment will be considered as undisclosed sources of income under section 69, and it will be considered as income in the previous year, okay, of investment made. That is the year in which the investment is made. Shares is just an example. It can be any investment in property, investment in shares, investment in securities, bonds, anything. Okay. Now, next let's come to section 69A. Section 69A of the Income Tax Act 1961 talks about unexplained money, etc. What is the meaning? If there is any money or bullion. Bullion means what? Bullion means a precious metal in a raw form. For example, gold bullion. Gold bullion means what? Gold brick, or people even call it gold biscuit or gold coins. Okay, so it is bullion. So if there is any money, bullion, jewelry, or any other valuable article or thing not recorded in the books of accounts. Okay. Now this Mr. Fraud again comes into picture. Mr. Fraud is having either money, bullion, jewelry, or any other valuable article or thing which he has not recorded in the books of accounts. The assessing officer is checking the books of accounts and he found out that Mr. Fraud has not disclosed them in the books of accounts. Assessing officer will go to Mr. Fraud and he will ask him from where did the money come from to buy all this bullion, jewelry, etc., or where did the, even if money is directly found out, he will ask where did the money come from. If the assessee, that is Mr. Fraud, he is not able to explain, or the explanation given by him is not satisfactory in the opinion of the assessing officer, in such case the assessing officer will treat this money, bullion, jewelry, or any other valuable article or thing as undisclosed sources of income, and it will be considered as income in the financial year in which it is found by the assessing officer. You get my point? Hence, the year in which the assessing officer finds out, in that year he will treat all this as income if explanation is not offered properly. You get my point? Next, section 69B, investments not fully disclosed. Earlier we talked about investment, then we talked about money, bullion, jewelry, or any other valuable article or thing that was not disclosed at all. Now in section 69B, what we are seeing, that there is an investment, money, bullion, jewelry, or any other valuable article or thing, okay, which is disclosed, but however its value exceeds the amount recorded in the books of accounts. Okay, for example, let us again take the example of Mr. Fraud. What has Mr. Fraud done? Mr. Fraud had disclosed value of jewelry as rupees 20 lakhs in the books of accounts. Mr. Fraud has disclosed what? The value of jewelry in the books of accounts as 20 lakh rupees. Okay. But when the assessing officer was checking the details of Mr. Fraud, he found out that Mr. Fraud actually has jewelry worth rupees 50 lakhs. He actually has jewelry worth rupees how much? 50 lakhs. Hence, Mr. Fraud has showed this jewelry in the books of accounts. However, he has not shown the full value. He has shown only some value. There is some amount, excess amount, which is not shown in the books of accounts. Hence, assessing officer will come to Mr. Fraud and he will ask him as usual, from where did the money come from to buy this investment or bullion or jewelry or any other valuable article or thing, or where did the money which is excess over here come from. In such case, if Mr. Fraud is not able to offer an explanation or he is not able to offer satisfactory explanation, in such case the excess amount means what? In this example, rupees 30 lakhs. 20 lakhs was disclosed correctly only, correct? The difference between both of them, that is 30 lakhs, that is the excess amount, will be considered as undisclosed sources of income and it will be deemed as income of the financial year in which it was found out by the assessing officer. You get my point? Next, section 69C. Section 69C, unexplained expenditure. Unexplained expenditure. Unexplained expenditure means what? Any expenditure for which the source cannot be explained. Expenditure for which source cannot be explained. Now let's take an example that Mr. Fraud, okay, has incurred an expense of rupees 20 lakhs. Has incurred an expense of rupees 20 lakhs. The assessing officer comes to Mr. Fraud and asks him where did the money come from to incur this expenditure. Okay. However, the money had come from fraudulent means. Hence, the Mr. Fraud is not able to offer an explanation, or he is not able to offer satisfactory explanation. In such case, what happens? The assessing officer will tell that you have not disclosed the 20 lakh rupees as income from where you have got the money, and you are showing it as an expense. Hence, this entire expense amount, that is 20 lakhs, it will be considered as your income. Okay, be very careful. 20 lakhs is what? Expense. Okay, now assessing officer is coming and telling from where did the money come from to do this expense. Okay, assessee, that is Mr. Fraud, he is not able to give explanation. Hence, the assessing officer will treat this expense as income. He will treat this expense itself as an income, as undisclosed sources of income, because he feels that Mr. Fraud would not have shown the money from where the money has come from to make this expense as their income earlier. Hence, the assessing officer treats this expense itself as an undisclosed sources of income. I hope you are able to understand. Okay, now Mr. Fraud is also very smart. So what he will do is, see, he will tell, okay assessing officer, no problem. This time you have it. You treat this rupees 20 lakhs as income. Okay. However, I have also spent 20 lakhs, correct? 20 lakhs is also my expense. So what I will do is, I will claim this 20 lakh rupees as an expense against the income of rupees 20 lakhs, and my net profit is 0, that is the net income is 0, and I will show rupees 0 as income. Okay, because in the income concept we learned, remember, that only net income should be considered for calculating income tax. Hence, what does the Income Tax Act tells? The assessee should avoid such practices. Okay, he should not get away with this practice. Hence, this 20 lakh rupees will also not be allowed as expense. This 20 lakh rupees will not be allowed as expense. So, are you able to get my point? If there is any expenditure incurred by the assessee for which the source cannot be explained by the assessee, or the source explained is not satisfactory at all in the opinion of the assessing officer, in such case this expenditure will be treated as undisclosed income in the financial year in which it is incurred, and it will also not be allowed as deduction. It will also not be allowed as deduction. So expense cannot be claimed as expense also, and it will be treated as income also. So it is the reverse. Okay, so very strict. I hope you are able to understand. Next, section 69D of the Income Tax Act 1961 tells amount borrowed or repaid on hundi. Okay, first and foremost, hundi means what? Hundi actually is an age old practice, okay, of financial instrument in India. Okay, in India it is practiced from very anciently, that is from the past many years, and it is like a bill of exchange but without any support from banks. So basically what will happen is, let's say if I am doing a business, okay, and I sold saris of rupees 10 lakhs. I sold saris of rupees 10 lakhs to my customer. Now this customer is going to give me the money only after 4 months. But however, I need the money right now. The customer is going to give me the money only after 4 months, but I need the money right now. So what I will do is, I will go to the lender. Lender here does not mean bank, lender means any lender, any person. I will go to a lender and I will tell them that, see lender, I have to get 10 lakh rupees after 4 months. So now what you do is, you give me 9 lakh 50,000 rupees. You give me 9 lakh 50,000 rupees and you collect 10 lakh rupees from my customer directly after 4 months, and this 50,000 difference, okay, you keep it as a interest. So when the lender gives 9 lakh 50,000 to me, okay, this 9 lakh 50,000 I receive, it is called borrowing on hundi. It is called borrowing on hundi. You get my point? Now, the Income Tax Act tells that borrowing and repayment both, if it is on hundi, then it must be through account pay check. It must be through an account pay check. If it is not on account pay check, then the amount borrowed or repaid on hundi will be treated as undisclosed sources of income and the entire amount will be taxed. Even though it is a borrowing and repayment, it is actually not an income, but it will be treated as income and it will be taxed under the income tax law. You get my point? When will it be treated as income? In the financial year of borrowing or repayment. Now, here what happens is, if at all an amount is already taxed as a borrowing, okay, then it will be very unfair if during repayment also that amount is getting taxed. It means double taxation, correct? Hence, the Income Tax Act also tells, if an amount is already taxed, then it will not be taxed once again. Okay, so if this borrowing is taxed, then the repayment of rupees 10 lakhs will not get taxed. Okay. Hence, if there is any hundi transaction, it should compulsorily be by way of account pay check. If not, it will be considered as an income in the financial year of borrowing or repayment. So what will be the previous year in such case? The previous year will be the financial year of borrowing or repayment. You get my point? So all these are the 6 cases of undisclosed sources of income. We discussed in detail what is the meaning, okay, why they are considered as undisclosed sources, and when will they be considered as an income. Now let us see one more point. Section 115 BBE. Section 115 BBE of the Income Tax Act 1961 tells that all these undisclosed sources of income are taxed at a special rate of 60 percentage tax, and above that tax the taxpayer also has to pay 25 percentage surcharge, and above the tax and surcharge the taxpayer also has to pay 4% health and education cess. Okay, the surcharge and health and education cess we will learn in detail in the coming videos. For now, you know generally that if on 100 rupees, firstly he has to pay 60 rupees as tax. Okay, then on this 60 rupees he has to pay 25 percentage surcharge, and on this 60 plus 25 percentage he has to pay 4 percentage as health and education cess. Totally, if you take your calculator and if you do 100 into 60 percentage plus 25 percentage plus 4 percentage, you will get the answer as 78. So basically 78 rupees tax on 100 rupees income. That is the consequence of the undisclosed sources of income, and it is very strict that the assessee should not have any undisclosed sources of income. And let me tell you that this is just the tax amount. Okay, on this tax amount, if the previous year is well before, then in such case there will be interest also. Okay, and since it is a fraudulent activity, there will be penalty also. So it is very much possible that the tax itself is more than the income. It is very much possible that the tax itself is more than the income. Hence, it is done so that any assessee avoids any such practices which are mentioned in this particular list. Very strict. Okay, I hope you are able to get it. Next, last concept in this particular video. Income of the previous year taxed in previous year itself. That means previous year equal to assessment year. Now what is this? We are going to learn five cases where the income of the previous year is taxed in the previous year itself. Generally, income of previous year is taxed when in the next year. So next year is called the assessment year. However, now we are going to learn five cases where income of the year is taxed in the same year itself. It is taxed during the year itself. Okay. What are those five situations? Situation number one is given in section number 172 of the Income Tax Act 1961, and it talks about non-resident shipping business. Non-resident shipping business. Okay. I'll give you an example. Now what happens? Okay. One second. So if at all, let's say this is the seashore. Okay, a ship is coming. This very much looks like a boat, but just consider it as a ship. A ship is coming to India. Okay, it is delivering with the goods in India, and it is going back to a foreign country. Let's say it's coming from USA. Ship is coming from USA to India. It is delivering the goods in India, and it is going back to USA. Now when the ship comes to India, okay, it collects freight charges from India, correct? Hence, this freight charges collected from India is an income. Now, what happens is the income tax department, okay, it is afraid that when the ship will leave back and go to the USA, we cannot catch hold of the ship and make it pay the income tax. It is very difficult to catch hold of the ship and make it pay income tax. Hence, what do? They ask the ship to pay the income tax then itself. They ask the ship to pay the income tax then itself. And on what will they pay the tax? On 7.5 percentage of the freight paid or payable. Hence, if at all they are collecting 100 rupees as freight, if they are collecting 100 rupees as freight, then 7.5 rupees will be considered as net income, because I already told you that net income is only taxable. Okay, gross income is not taxable. But since the freight is taxed in during the previous year itself, it is impossible to compute the net income because it will take some time, correct? But the Income Tax Act wants the tax then and there itself. Hence, the Income Tax Act is assuming that the income is 7.5 percentage. Income Tax Act is assuming that the income is 7.5 percentage. A fiction is created, and hence 7.5 rupees is treated as income, and the shipping business, that is the non-resident shipping business, is asked to pay the tax on 7.5 rupees. You get my point? Hence, in such case, the income of the previous year, it is taxed in the previous year itself. I hope you are able to understand, and you are able to understand the logic also, correct? If the non-resident shipping business just goes away, it is impossible to catch hold of them and make them pay the taxes. Hence, it is very important to make them pay the taxes then and there itself. That is why such type of provision is there. Next, section number 174. A person leaving India during the previous year or shortly after the previous year with no intention to return back. Okay, let's take an example. There is a person called Mr. Mirav. There is a person called Mr. Mirav. Mr. Mirav is planning to exit India and go to some foreign country, and he does not have any intention to return back to India, and he has earned a lot of income during the previous year. Assessing officer comes to know that Mr. Mirav is going to vacate India very soon and he is not going to come back. When the assessing officer gets this information, he will come and he will ask Mr. Mirav that pay the tax of the income now itself. We are not going to wait for the next year. We are going to collect the tax from you this year itself. Hence, on what the income will be taxable? Income of the year till the date of departure or the probable date of departure. If the assessing officer is going to feel that Mr. Mirav is going out of India, is going to go out of India, let's say on 28th of February, on 28th of February. In such case, the income from 1st April till 28th of February will be taxed during the year itself, and tax will be collected from Mr. Meerav. You get my point? However, this provision, it is not a compulsory provision. The first point we saw, it was compulsory. Every non-resident shipping business has to compulsorily consider income as 7.5% and pay the taxes. However, here it will arise only when the assessing officer will come into picture and he will tell that the tax has to be paid. Generally, it is not payable. You get my point? Hence, it is like a power given to the assessing officer. Now, next, section 174A. AOP, BOI or AJP formed for a particular purpose. Okay, AOP, BOI, AJP, you do not know the meaning. We are going to know the meaning in the next video, but for now, you know that AOP, that is Association of Person, BOI means Body of Individual, and AJP is Artificial Juridical Person. They are nothing but a group of people. They are nothing but a group of people formed for a particular purpose. Formed for a particular purpose. Let's say, for example, me and my friend. Okay, we both came together and we started a construction of a building, and we decided that we will construct 4 flats. We will sell all the 4 flats, and then we will dissolve this group, and then we will do our work separately. So we came together just for the purpose of constructing this building, okay, of 4 flats. We will sell the 4 flats, and as soon as they are sold, we will dissolve this group and we will start working individually, separately. You get my point? Now, this assessing officer is there, no? He feels that now this group is together, okay, and they are earning the income. However, after the purpose of construction is completed, they are going to split. In such case, it is very much possible when the assessing officer comes to me, I will tell him that collect tax from my friend. When assessing officer goes to my friend, he will tell that collect tax from me. Okay, so we'll start playing with the assessing officer. So to avoid such type of transaction, or to avoid such type of situation to happen, what will assessing officer do? Assessing officer will tax the income in the same year itself. He will not wait for the next year. So the income of the year till the date of dissolution. Till the date of dissolution. Date of dissolution means what? The date on which the group is getting dissolved or the group is getting separated. Okay. You can easily take an example of a joint venture which is getting formed for a particular purpose. So in such case, the assessing officer may come into picture and he will tell that in that year itself you pay the tax on the income. Okay. Next, section number 175 of the Income Tax Act 1961 tells that if there is an assessee who is likely to sell, transfer, dispose or part with any asset or property to avoid the taxes, in such case, income of the year till the assessing officer commences proceedings will be taxed in the same year itself. I will give you an example. Okay. Again, let us recall Mr. Fraud. Mr. Fraud. Okay, let's say Mr. Fraud is having a building. Okay, on this building, Mr. Fraud is earning rent. Mr. Fraud is earning rental income. Now, what happens is after a few months, let's say after 10 months, Mr. Fraud thought that what I will do is I will demolish the building. I will demolish this entire building and I will tell that there was no building at all. So I did not at all receive any rent. Okay. So Mr. Fraud is having a building from which he has earned a rent of, let's say, rupees 10 lakhs for 10 months. 1 lakh rupee per month. For 10 months he earned 10 lakh rupees. But he does not want to show this 10 lakhs as his income and he does not want to pay the tax. So what he does is he is demolishing the building, okay, and he will tell that there was no building at all over here. So I did not even receive any rent. Now from the street, unluckily for Mr. Fraud, the assessing officer was passing by, okay, and he saw that this building is getting demolished. Okay, and assessing officer know that Mr. Fraud does not have a very good reputation, so he tried to find out whether this house was earlier on rent, and he got the proof that it was earlier on rent. Now it was very important that the assessing officer comes into picture and catch holds of Mr. Fraud to get tax on this rupees 10 lakhs. Hence, assessing officer comes and he sees that where the assessee is likely to sell, transfer, dispose, or part with any asset or property to avoid paying some tax, then till the assessing officer commences proceedings. Commences proceedings means what? He will start calculating, he will himself start assessing the tax. So the income of the year from the beginning of the year till when the assessing officer starts calculating the taxes, till then the entire income will be taxed in that year itself. In the same year itself, the assessing officer will not wait for the next year, because next year Mr. Fraud might go away somewhere, okay, without showing it as income. Next, section number 176 talks about discontinued business. Hence, if a business itself is getting discontinued, the assessing officer will feel that after the discontinuance, it will be very difficult to catch hold of the owner of the business to collect the tax on the business income. Hence, what he will do in that year itself, in that year itself, from the beginning of the year till the date of the discontinuance, okay, on whatever income is there, he will collect the taxes. You get my point? Now all these 4 points, the last 4 points that we have discussed, okay, it is not always that in the previous year itself such income is taxed. It is taxed in the previous year only when the assessing officer comes into picture, okay, and he uses his powers. Or else generally it is not taxed in the previous year itself. Generally the income of the previous year will be taxed in the assessment year. Okay, I hope you are able to get my point. Now you would have noticed in this video that I am giving a lot of stress on section numbers. Is it important to memorize section numbers? Okay. My advice is that whenever you are learning, learn along with section numbers so that you will be able to have a structure. Okay. If you know that this section number I am knowing in my mind, it will be very easy for you to recollect all the provisions. Hence my advice would be to remember along with section numbers. Okay. However, and one more thing, in the examination what happens is they can directly ask you a question just by quoting the section number. Let's say a question comes where they are asking to talk about section number 172 directly without giving any other wordings. In such case, you should be ready that about section 172 you should be able to answer. You get my point? Hence, whenever you are learning, learn along with section numbers. And if at all you are going to exam hall, if you are not able to write the section numbers, it is totally fine. You can see my video on YouTube where I have discussed how to present the papers in the examination. In detail, I have discussed all these aspects. Okay, but while studying, I would advise you to study along with section numbers. It will make your preparation simple. It might look tough, but it will actually make your preparation simple. Trust me, I have also been a CA student. Okay, so here we will end with the year concept. I hope you are clear with everything. We will start with the next concept, that is the person concept, in the next video. So see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Bye bye.